Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Accidental Beauty. If you're new, welcome. My name's Laura. I post videos once a week, mainly about makeup and sometimes about hair, fashion, lifestyle, beauty, skincare, all that good stuff. Today, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, a little bit more ambitious than what I typically attempt on my channel, but I'm going to try and do more videos like this in the future. Today, what I'm going to be doing is talking myself out of buying all 4 of the Norvina Pro palettes. They're absolutely stunning. They broke the internet for a while, and I am trying to tell myself that I don't need them. So what I did was, over the course of 2 days, because filming this took a lot of energy and time and effort, basically what I did was I tried to look at my makeup collection and see if I could come up with a look using the colors from each of the palettes and trying to capture the general color scheme, the general feel, the tone of each palette, and see if I could successfully do that with the makeup that's currently in my collection, or if I'm lacking those shades and if I need that particular palette. Look number 1 is inspired by Norvina Volume 1, so on and so forth. I do 1 look per palette. I'll leave timestamps below if you guys want to just kind of skip to a particular look, particular palette, but I encourage you to watch all of them. I had a lot of fun filming it, and I hope you guys really enjoy watching this video. So without further ado, let's just get into it. Alright, so this is going to be look number 1. Unfortunately, I'm looking at swatches from Norvina Volume 1, and having my blood sugar palette from Jeffree Star would be really great right now because a lot of shades are very similar to that, but I don't have it on me right now. It's at my apartment and I'm at my in-laws for quarantine, so I'm going to dig through what I do have and see if I can match something. I have a feeling that I'm going to be using my Jawbreaker palette from Jeffree Star for most of these looks. So we have a lot of purples, magenta, reds, yellows, and some browns, a couple blues. It'd be great to have some of those pinky purple shades that are all throughout Jawbreaker. Got my Juvia's Place Zulu palette, and I have a feeling I'm going to be using this purple a lot. We have a couple yellows and golds. I have this Lancome gold highlighter. I'm probably going to use that. I'm trying to do kind of the essence of each palette. I'm trying to think if I actually had the palette, what looks I would do. I'm thinking a purple and red look with some gold accents. All right, so this is look number 1 finished. Okay, they're a lot more like berry magenta tones, lots of warm purples, and then like a couple blues, but a lot of warm purples in this palette. I don't have the right yellows, so I think the ones in the palette are actually a bit more mustardy, it looks like, based on swatches. Yeah, they look a bit more muted. The yellows that I have in my collection are a lot brighter. They're kind of like a sunny yellow, so definitely off there. The purples that I used I think are close. They're obviously not the exact same, but I think they're close. I probably could have added a bit more like cranberry tones because I didn't realize there are actually some of those in the palette. And obviously I don't have, it looks like there are actual glitters in like pressed glitters in this palette, so I don't own any of those. For some reason this eye is showing up way more gold than this one. Hold on. Yeah, that is so bizarre. Why is that happening? Add a little bit of this on top. What was I saying? Yeah, so there are pressed glitters in the palette, which I don't own any pressed glitters, so obviously I couldn't do that. I think that the pinky gold duochrome shade that I used from the Juvia's Place Zulu palette is close to that sort of duochrome-y similar shade in the palette. It's close. I think mine's a bit darker, so if I had used the one in the palette, I think this look would have been a bit less dark and smoky, but I actually prefer it dark and smoky. Yeah, so I've seen people do kind of sunset eyes similar to what I did. Let's see, how close do I think I came to this? I mean, I think it's close. It's obviously not the same. And I think the color payoff is a lot more intense in this actual palette because they're pigments rather than pressed eyeshadows. Or like pressed powders, whatever. I think, you know what, I think I got the spirit of the palette and I really don't feel like I need this one. This palette, I think, out of the 4, I think this one is my least favorite just because it feels like, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, a purple palette, this is great. Norvina loves purples, this is awesome. This is kind of like the sister palette to the Norvina palette from like the regular Anastasia Beverly Hills brand. So I thought this was great. And then the more I looked at it, the less I liked it. There's a lot of warm pinks and purples. And if I'm gonna get a purple palette, I want it to be more of like a cool tone palette, more blue tone purples. And this isn't that at all. Yeah, so this is probably my least favorite of the 4. And I totally can do without it. If I want to do a look kind of similar, I think I have the tools and the shades in my collection to do something like this, so I don't need to buy this palette. Let's move on to palette number 2, look number 2. We're getting into look number 2. All right, this I can do. Volume 2 and Volume 3 are kind of similar, like when you see all the swatches laid out in color order, like in the order of the color wheel. It looks like Volume 2 is just a straight up rainbow palette, focusing more on the blues and greens. And then Volume 3 is kind of like a lighter version. It's like half rainbow palette, focusing more on like the yellows, the reds, the purples, like those types of tones with some neutral shades thrown in. Since I did a pinky purple yellowy look for look number 1, I'm going to do just a basic blue look. I'm going to try and see if I can throw in some green and yellow accents maybe. We'll see how this goes. So pretty obvious choice. I'm gonna use the Jeffree Star Blue Blood palette. And like looking at it, I'm like, crap, I don't know if I have the right shades. Take a look at Jawbreaker. The kind of annoying thing is I don't have a ton of greens in my collection, and I feel like the greens are the reason why I want these palettes. It's crazy how looking at the palette just straight on versus looking at swatches organized by color order in the color wheel just makes this palette look so different. I kind of wish that these palettes were arranged in color order. I feel like maybe I would have bought them, but maybe that's a good thing that it's not like that. Because I did yellow in the crease before, I want to do something a little bit different. So I'm going to make a custom color. I'm going to make kind of like a light lime green, like a greenish yellow, and put that in my crease. All right, so this is look number 2. So I am absolutely thrilled with the way that this look turned out. I'm most surprised about creating this lime green shade out of the yellow and the light green from the Jawbreaker palette. That was a big surprise that I'm super, super happy with. So let's take a look at the palette and swatches. So the lime green shade is definitely more green than yellow. It seems to be a bit more yellow in the palette, although it's kind of hard to tell because people color correct and, add saturation and add different color tones when they're editing these pictures. So it's really hard to tell without actually seeing it in person. Although actually looking at it in this picture, it is a bit more green. So you know what? Never mind. I take back what I said. That blue looks pretty close. That teal looks actually decently close. What else? I got the hot pink. So that is good. Oh, I forgot to do an inner corner highlight. The color in the outer corner, it's actually like, I didn't realize because all the swatches look different depending on how people edited their photos. It looked like there was a dark turquoise, but I think it might actually just be, there's sort of like a mid-tone teal and then there's straight up navy. And this color looks sort of like if you took the navy and one of the lighter teals and mixed them together, which is exactly what I did. But I probably could have just used the navy from the Blue Blood palette and I would have been fine. So that's a little annoying, but I like the effect and I feel like you totally could just mix those two colors in the Norvina palette to get this effect, but yeah, it's so weird. It looks totally different in different pictures. Assuming that this is actually a lime green shade in the palette, I think it's pretty darn close. And I'm actually kind of proud of myself for this one because I didn't actually have a matte lime green with me. So mixing the yellow and the light greenish color from the Jawbreaker palette worked really, really nicely. So that's actually really good for me to know in the future if I'm in a pinch and need to get a lime green shade like that. This totally works. What else? Inner corner highlight, I use the shade Cullinan from Blue Blood. I feel like the silvery shade in this palette, it's not the same, but it's close, I think. Yeah, I think it's pretty close. It's kind of like a cool, like icy white silver. And then the hot pink metallic shade that I put under my lower lash line, it matches the shade in the palette pretty closely. So I think this look I was, if not like spot on, very, very close to the palette. I don't know, there are a couple shades in here that I just really, really want because I don't have anything like them in my collection. In particular, that metallic lime, pastel, icy lime green. I don't know how else to describe it. Kind of the finish of the metallics just looks so cool. Like I really wish Norvina would come out with single shadows for those metallics because they just look freaking awesome. That matte orange also looks really, really like super pigmented, and like I'd love a single shadow of that one as well. Overall, oh my god, I'm so happy with the way that this look turned out. It's kind of like mid 2000s like emo scene MySpace aesthetic, which I really don't mind actually. Do I feel like I need this palette? No, but this is the palette that I probably want the most out of the four of them. It's just so stunning. The colors are just so bright and vibrant. Even though I have similar shades in my collection, I just look at the swatches and I'm like, man, I really want that palette. I'm gonna sleep on it and think about it. I probably won't buy it unless it's like super, super on sale, but it's testing me. It's really testing me. So I'm not fully convinced yet not to buy this palette. So I'm going to think about that, and we're going to move on to volume 3 and look number 3. This is day 2 of me filming. I just didn't have the energy to do all 4 looks in one day, so I split up the filming over 2 days. Forget what I said before about Norvina volume 2 being my favorite. I think volume 3 might be my favorite. I don't know, 2 and 3 are just stunning, and they kind of seem like sister palettes. They just seem very, very similar to each other. They just complement each other very well. 3 seems like the younger sister of 2, kind of in a similar way that volume 4 seems like the younger sister of volume 1. It's just like a lighter, brighter version, if that makes sense. So looking at swatches from volume 3, there's a lot of secondary colors. So we have lots of greens, lots of oranges, and some purples. I wish that some of the greens were metallic because this, like, literally it reminds me of the Juvia's Place Zulu palette, so could have done a lot with that, but pretty much all of the shades that I'm really drawn to are mattes. Okay, so let's try and figure this out. There's this like lime green, like this sort of greenish yellow shade, like this neon greenish yellow shade, like almost like a green highlighter shade that is really catching my eye. And then we have some oranges. So I definitely want to do something with the oranges. Like we have a cool coral in there. We have some really nice neutral metallics. Then we have like a turquoise, we have a purple. I'm gonna attempt to do something which is probably way out of my capabilities because it's hard to figure out like where to start, especially I really don't like the way that the shades are arranged in these palettes. I wish they were just arranged in color order. I think I said that before. It's a lot to take in, especially when there are so many shades. It's just like, it's very overwhelming to look at and try and figure out what to do with the palette. And I feel like if these are supposed to be kind of like artistry palettes for makeup artists and very serious makeup enthusiasts, I feel like it kind of makes, like if this is supposed to be like a pro palette, I feel like it makes so much more sense just to have the colors arranged in order from like, you know, lightest to darkest or whatever. Because I feel like it's so much easier to reach for like, okay, I need like a mid-tone, I need a dark, I need a light to highlight. Like, you know, it kind of would logically make more sense. Although visually, it creates way more of an impact when you see all the colors together because it's just like, whoa, so many bright colors. For the Instagrammable quality of it, I see why the colors were arranged as they were, and I know Norvina is very much into everything she presents and the photos that seem to be shared on ABH's Instagram page seemed to be all about that like very Instagrammable, almost like more perfect than humanly possible looks.
You wanted me. Maybe I was wrong, even once wasn't anything. So if we had another chance, I would never let you steal my plans. Bring me back to life.
Okay, so this is look number 3 done. So this is look number 3 done. I'm so happy with the way that this look turned out. I've wanted to do a secondary colors themed eye look for quite some time now. So I'm really glad that this challenge that I gave myself gave me an excuse and an opportunity to actually try it out on my eyes. I love playing with colors and I love contrasting it like the way that I did with my wig. adding kind of blues and purple tones into, so basically adding like sort of a more primary color into the group of secondary colors. Love doing things like that. All right, let's take a look at the palette. So, okay, so I feel like I captured part of the essence of this palette. There are some more like pinks and reds, those types of tones, and some pinkier purples in there, and a surprising number of more peachy nude shades that I didn't add in here. I felt like the wow factor of this palette is those greens and oranges and purples. So I decided not to go for the like safer options, although I'm glad that they are in the palette because it kind of gives you a more neutral base to start your look with, and kind of more transition shades. But I don't know, I think I did an okay job at drawing inspiration from this palette. Now, would I actually buy it? I don't know, those greens and oranges are really calling my name. I don't know, it's like the neutrals are like, okay, I don't need another palette with like half the shades being neutrals, but those like bright, really unique colors are just really calling me. I don't know, I feel like I definitely wouldn't buy this palette at full price. I wish I knew someone who had it so I could kind of try it out, but I think I wouldn't buy this palette unless it was on sale for like at least 40% off. Then I would consider it. I do want this palette. I definitely don't need it. I think I was able to successfully recreate the shades from the palette in my eye look, but I love it. It's beautiful. The packaging is beautiful. The shades are beautiful. The packaging reflects the colors. This one and the last one are really, really tough. I feel like in the future, at some point, all of these palettes are definitely going to go on sale, whether it's a promotional thing on Anastasia's site, or if Sephora happens to do some kind of crazy sale for the brand or for certain products. I definitely could see the series going on sale, maybe like when they come out with their next amazing groundbreaking product, and these are kind of being pushed out the door. I'm not in any particular rush. Like, obviously I was able to create a look without it. I think what I'm finding from this exercise so far is I don't have enough neon yellows and lime greens in my collection. So I feel like, honestly, if I was able to get like a couple like neon single shadows, I don't know, the more I look at this, the more I actually don't know if I want it, because I keep seeing like, okay, the pops of like yellow and green and pink and some of the metallics are really, really exciting to me. And then I just see all these browns and it's like, I'm less excited, you know? But then I see the looks that people create and I'm just like, damn it. I kind of wish that the mini palettes had more of those like really bright, crazy neon shades. They're just really boring looking. And I wish that more of those really bright, neon, vibrant shades that I think drew people to the bigger palettes were in the smaller palettes. I came across a picture of the palette rearranged in kind of like lightest to deepest tones according to the color wheel. Kind of like what I was mentioning before, something that I would have liked to have seen in these palettes. And I feel like rearranging it like that actually makes it look really boring because of all those really boring neutral tones, all those like beiges. Like these palettes, I know, okay, it's like on the one hand, I want those beiges for more neutral transition shades in the crease and then you build up the color. But at the same time, these palettes are supposed to be bright, rainbow, neon, I don't know, colorful palettes. And it's like, I don't want stupid like beiges and taupes and all that in there. I want neon. And I wonder if this palette might have benefited more, like because it is more orange and green and then a couple purples, if it would have benefited from more pastel or like desaturated versions of those neon colors to act as transition colors instead of adding those browns, because like there's a brown crease transition shade color in literally every single palette. We don't need more. Like, I guarantee some of these people who collect all these palettes, they probably have like 100 browns at least in their collection. Like, we don't need more of them. I don't know. So seeing it rearranged actually makes me want it way less. Like, it kind of makes me not want it at all. which is weird. It's really just like the lime green, some of the oranges that I'd want. So you know what? I don't need this palette. I think I'm happy with what I have in my collection, and I think I would just add a couple single shadows just to round things out. I think I mentioned this before, but I would love if Norvina or Anastasia Beverly Hills could release single shadow versions of maybe not all the shades or maybe all the shades. I don't know. I don't know how expensive that would be, but to release single shadows of the shades that are in these palettes, because sometimes, like, okay, for example, this one, I don't want to buy the palette when literally like half of it, a quarter of it is brown transition shades. I want like that lime green. I want some of the metallics maybe. Basically the yellows, the greens, the pinks, those types of shades. And I don't really need everything else. So I'd love if I could just buy like single versions of those. But because Anastasia hasn't done it, I'm looking at other brands. So I feel like doing things like that, at least for me, and like obviously I'm not, I don't speak for everyone, and I'm not, the voice of all consumers of Anastasia Beverly Hills, patrons, customers, whatever. But for me, it kind of draws me actually away from the brand. Also because these are so expensive that like I'm not going to buy a palette unless I'm in love with pretty much every single shade, like 95% of the shades. So yeah, you know what? I really don't need this one. Let's move on to the fourth and final look. All right, so we're on the last one. This is the palette that launched most recently. It's funny, I saw this when all the teaser photos came out, and I was like, oh my god, this is like brilliant. This has never been done before. It's so beautiful. And the more I look at it, I realize it's a neutral purple palette with one pop of yellow. This is like the pop of blue or the pop of, color effect that Anastasia palettes seem to suffer from, and they're not unique in that. A lot of people have been saying this looks like the original Norvina palette 2.0. I kind of feel like it's like if you took the original Norvina palette and you took the Norvina Volume 1 Pro palette, and those had a baby, this is what it would look like. Let's just throw something together and see what happens.
Seeing monsters out your window. No, you can't sleep, you pretend though. You don't have to play the hero. 'Cause I got you like you got me. When the earth shakes, when the bombs scream, until our last breath, every heartbeat.
All right, so this is look number 4. I'm really, really happy actually with the way that this look turned out. I feel like I kind of accidentally made it a classic Norvina look. I definitely feel like this is the type of colors that she normally goes for whenever she's in a campaign. Even the style of the makeup, I mean, the shape of her eyes is a bit different from mine, so she kind of does more like semicircle looks, I feel like her lid tends to go up higher than mine. I feel like this look, out of the 4 of them, really captures the essence and aesthetic and general color palette of Norvina herself, as well as kind of the colors that she tends to gravitate towards, the colors that are in this palette. I feel like this look, out of the 4 of them possibly, was probably the closest that I've created to capturing the essence of the palette that I was trying to recreate. Really, really happy with this. Yeah, so we have a lot of pinks, a lot of browns, a lot of purples, like classic Norvina. And yeah, I feel like maybe just because there isn't as big of a range of colors in this palette, I feel like it was easier for me to come up with a look that really encompasses the whole color scheme. But I'm really, really proud of this look. The only one that I really struggled with was that yellow, because I don't have a pastel yellow like that in my collection, or at least not with me right now. Is it a shade that I would use ever? Probably not, unless I was doing or trying to recreate a specific look, or if I was trying to do a look within a certain color scheme, then maybe I would reach for that type of yellow. So I feel like it can come in handy as like an accent color, but is it something that I would reach for every day? Definitely not. Basically, I tried to take one of the yellows that I have in my collection and lighten it with white eyeshadow. It sort of worked, but then it kind of dulled down the pigmentation. So that was a bit of a struggle. But overall, really, really happy with the way that this look turned out. Would I buy this palette? Now that I've sort of analyzed it in depth, created a look inspired by it, I don't need it. I really don't. The colors are beautiful, no question about it, but I've got very similar shades in my collection. Yeah, I had to layer a few of them on top of each other to get certain colors, but overall, really don't need. Definitely, I don't think I would even buy this palette if it went on sale, because it just seems so basic to me. And like, some people like that, nothing wrong with it. Like, it is a very beautiful palette. It doesn't really add a whole lot to my collection. I feel like I have a lot of these shades already. So yeah, even if it was on sale, I don't think I would buy it. So in conclusion, I'm like so exhausted after doing these 4 looks. I split them up over 2 days. So 2 looks on one day, 2 looks on another day. But even then, like, I'm just so tired. This was a great creative exercise for myself. I really want to challenge myself to try and create more looks inspired by palettes that I don't have, to either convince myself and talk myself out of buying them, or even just as a creative exercise, just to broaden my skills and challenge myself a bit more. This was really, really fun. Okay, so overall, out of the 4 of them, like, really the only palette I feel like that might add something to my collection, or at least like the palette that I'm still kind of like hung up on, is volume 2. Even though I have so many blues in my collection, I just feel like the ones in the palette, they're a bit different, okay? And I don't know, it's just something about looking at the palette just soothes me. I don't know, maybe it's just the blues and greens. I tend to gravitate towards cooler tone colors. I don't know what it is. It's a beautiful palette. All 4 of them are really beautiful palettes. It's just, I feel like because I already have a couple of rainbow palettes in my collection, I don't really need more. And I feel like I can kind of supplement now. Like, now that I've sort of built up a decent size makeup collection, I feel like I can just kind of supplement here and there with single shadows. Like, oh, I don't have that particular shade of purple. Okay, I'll buy a couple purples that sort of fill out that range of shades and tones. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I don't know. Right now, I'm just feeling like I don't need to buy an entire palette. I just wish that when makeup brands are coming up with like, oh, we came up with this really cool like duochrome pinky silver color, and you know, everyone buys the palette because they just want that color. Like, I wish brands would come out with single shadows of like those special shades and those special formulas. Like Jeffree Star does this all the time, where he comes up with these different formulas of metallics, and they look really cool and buttery, and they swatch really nicely, and they look beautiful. Just come out with single shadows, and then I will buy those single shadows. I just don't want to buy a whole palette of shades that I already have when I really just want that one shade. So the same thing here. Like, there are a couple neon colors, there are a couple metallics that look, and there are a couple of like glitters, it looks like, that look absolutely stunning. I just don't really need the rest of the palette. I just want like those one or two or maybe even three shades. It doesn't seem like brands are really putting that type of thing out anymore, which is really unfortunate. There's a point where a ton of brands were releasing single shadows, and it was a big thing on YouTube in the beauty community to collect all these single shadows and make your own palettes. And I really love that, because a thing that I love about makeup is playing with the colors and customizing things and making your own palettes and sort of putting interesting combinations of colors together to create a look that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. And it's really easy to do that with single shadows and a magnetic palette. But when you're working with a bunch of different eyeshadow palettes, it's really challenging to create a more unique, interesting look, unless you're, you know, trying to recreate colors from a particular palette or a particular look that you saw. When they're stuck in a palette, it's kind of harder to take them out or to look at them or in isolation like that. But I really wish that brands would go back to, you know, sort of also putting out single shadows. I know it's more expensive to buy single shadows and build up a collection that way, but right now I just kind of want to round out my collection with certain shades that I don't have, which is why I'm starting to look at indie brands, because a lot of them, they'll put out one or two palettes, but then they're sort of known more, certain brands are known more for their single shadows, and I don't know, that's kind of where I am right now. Back to this challenge though, I had a lot of fun. The Norvina palettes are stunning. I know Norvina and the Anastasia Beverly Hills team works very, very hard to create high quality shadows and to put out really bold, interesting, different products. I just feel like some of these weren't that. I feel like maybe because this sub-brand is very much Norvina's brand, and Norvina's aesthetics are neons, but a lot of pinky purples. And you definitely see that a lot, especially with volume 1 and volume 4. I just felt like, I don't know, I wish there was a bit more to the palettes. At the same time, I'm glad, because I don't want to spend like, I don't know, what is it, like $70 per palette or something ridiculous like that. But really, like, if they can release single shadows of those glitter shades and of some of those neons, like, that would just be perfect. But I don't know, I had a lot of fun doing this challenge. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, what your favorite look was. And also feel free to try this challenge on these palettes and tag me on Instagram or send me a DM or something if you guys did try this challenge. I think that would be, I don't know, I think it's a fun way to challenge yourself, and I definitely want to try and challenge myself more, especially since it's quarantine right now and not a whole lot is happening. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to follow me on my socials. I've got links for all those and affiliate links, discount codes, everything in the description box, and I'll see you in my next video.